Hey everyone, Coach Toolshed here, and I'm here today to bring you my review for Madden NFL 2019. Wait a minute. Wait. What is going on? That's not a football. Is that a baby? Is he shovel passing a baby? Yeah, that's a baby. That's a baby. And that guy's running a route that does not look like Antonio Brown. Okay. This is obviously not Madden NFL 19. This must be Yakuza 6, the Song of Life. That's right. This is a baby throwing simulator. And we're going to get into this review, and we're going to discuss the finale of the story of Kiryu Kazama. Now, full disclosure, I have not played any of the other Yakuza games. I have not played Yakuza 1 through 5. I have not played Yakuza 0 or Kiwami, so you have to take this as this is a review that's coming from someone who is not familiar with the series. I'm a first-time player, so if any longtime fans get upset by some things I say or if I get some of the things wrong, I'm sorry. I can't compare this to the other games in the series. If you are a first-time player of Yakuza or someone who's never played the series before, we're in the same boat. I went in blind to this. I haven't really followed the series so much, but I heard a lot of people talking good about this series for a long time, so finally this was the finale of the main character storyline. So I said, you want to know what? Let me check it out. I'll see how it is, and we can take it from there. So with that out of the way, let me tell you the first thing you need to keep in mind about this game is any marketing you may have heard about it, anything you might have read about it. A lot of people refer to this as an action game, primarily. And there is a good amount of fighting. You're going to be doing a lot of street brawling. It's a lot of button mashing, and I'm sure there's going to be people who'd be like, oh, there's way more technique than that. Yeah, there probably is. I didn't really need to use a whole lot of technique to get through the storyline and beat the game. So, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I've missed along the way when it comes to combat, but for the most part, it's a 3D street brawler. However, that's not really what the game is. In reality, what this is a JRPG with a lot of exposition. You are going to be watching a lot of cutscenes, far more cutscenes than I was expecting, because when people discuss this game, they don't really talk about all of the cutscenes that you're going to be. Everyone talks about, oh, you can pick up benches and smash people in the face. You can hit people with motorcycles, and yeah, you can use objects in the street as weapons. You can pick up weapons off the ground and do some cool combos. They have some cool animations, and the fighting itself isn't bad. But like I said, you're going to be sitting through a lot of cutscenes. I would say probably more than half the game you're going to be in conversations just like this. And they're going to be varying degrees of, is this interesting or not? And you're like what you're seeing on the screen right now with the wooden faces and the animations and people just staring straight ahead like this is a large part of the game. So if this is not something that you're into, odds are right off the bat you're probably not going to be into Yakuza 6. The other thing is that you're going to be spending a lot of time doing this, going into restaurants to eat, because you have to fill up your stomach meter, which you see on the left-hand side of the screen right there, and you have to go in and get food and eat to keep that stomach meter up. Otherwise, you become incredibly weak during combat. So you have to keep your stomach with food in it at all times, and the rate at which you become hungry is laughable, to say the least. You can have a full stomach at the start of the game, get into 3 fights, and then you have to go eat again. And then you have to go eat again. And then you have to go eat again. The amount of time that you spend eating in this game is absurd. And there's different skills you can take that change the dynamic of, how there's stomach skills you can buy, if you can believe that will increase the amount of food you can eat, but there's not a skill that you can buy that increases or that it decreases the amount of time that it takes for your food to run out in your stomach. It actually speeds up the only skill they provide speeds up the drainage on your stomach. So you're going to be spending a lot of time in cutscenes and a lot of time going to eat, and that's going to be at least 60 to 70% of the game. The rest of the time, you're going to be fighting in the street with guys in suits. And like I said, the combat is actually not too bad, but it's also not varied. It's going to be the same type of fight over and over again. You start out fighting small groups of guys, and by the end of the game you're fighting like 30 guys, but the dynamics of the fights don't really change. You can unlock different stuff for Kiryu to make him stronger and all that, but the basics of the fighting never really changes. I found it to be pretty tiresome after a certain point, and I would just run away from fights because what's the point? You barely get any experience for random fights. You really only get a lot of experience for completing missions. So there's really not a whole lot of incentive for you to do random fights in the street. It's just a time filler, really. Now, the amount of time you spend in cutscenes, you would think that the story would justify you being in that many cutscenes. But I have to say, at least the first probably 5 chapters of the game, the story is just dragging, and nothing really happens. About halfway through the game, it started to get interesting. I will say it did improve. The story did improve drastically, probably in around chapter 6 or 7, I think it was, and I started getting much more invested in the story. And they were teasing this big reveal at the end. There was some big secret that a group of Yakuza were keeping under wraps in this little fishing town. And it just kept going back. Oh, there's a secret. There's this big secret. And so I was waiting for this big payoff at the end of the game. And the payoff, I could not have been less enthused when they actually revealed the payoff. And I'm not going to tell you what it is if you are interested and want to play, but I gotta say, don't hold out hope for anything too crazy. It was one of the weakest reveals I've ever seen in any game that I've ever played. That's just me being honest. Now, aside from the cutscenes and the eating and the fighting, there's also a ton of side activities. And this is probably where the most interesting stuff happens in the game, but it also is filled with a lot of cheese. You're going to get a lot of that old-time Japanese RPG cheese in this, and a lot of the game is full of cheese anyway, but there's a lot of side stuff you can do. Stuff like this. You play Puyo Puyo. You go to the gym and increase, Kiryu's stats through that, and they give you food challenges, and you can go to the bar and talk to people. And there's arcade games you can play, which you see on the screen here. This is Virtua Fighter, which is you can play in the game. You can play Virtua Fighter in the game. So, I mean, if that's something you're into, it is some nice little side activities. There's also a few side activities that are super weird, and some of the side activities are a little bit, I don't know, maybe something not for the kids, like this. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in any game. Now, I don't play a ton of Japanese games, so maybe this is not, super weird for that. But I thought having a live-action chat room game like this was super weird. And, not really anything that I want in my video game necessarily. Maybe you do. Maybe this is your jam. Hey, more power to you. This, to me, was super weird. But I tried it out. Okay. Then you get some stuff like this. This is at the bar you can go to, and you can go and play darts. And then you can open up sort of like a dart league around the city, and there's different people you can challenge. And there is some fun side activities that you can do. So I mean, it's not devoid of content aside from the cutscenes and the brawling, but it's all just kind of scattered. And it's just like all just super random stuff. and what the game does lack is coherence. And sometimes it wants to be deathly serious, and sometimes it wants to be, goofy as hell. I will say, despite everything, I did enjoy Kiryu as main character. I like playing as him. I really enjoyed him as a character. Some of the side characters did absolutely nothing for me. There's a couple good characters throughout the game. Kiryu is clearly, the standout, though. He is a good main character, and I didn't have a problem playing with him. But in summary here, unless you are already into the Yakuza series and invested in that story, unless you're into JRPGs in general and a lot of exposition in your cutscenes, I don't really think that this is a game I could recommend for a broad audience. I don't think that your average player is just going to be, really into it. I know this game got good reviews overall, but for me, I would say if you're just a general gamer and you're not already invested in this series, I would say this probably is not a game for you. So that's it for my review for Yakuza 6. This is Coach Toolshed, and as always, keep it turned to 11.
休み出し明日は泳ぎに行こう今頃多分夢の海の中通しがいなくはしゃいでボートを貸し切りにして沈む夕日流